and gentlemen, I'm here to talk to you about the Logic User Guide. This is Eddie Gray bringing you the latest and the greatest information on YouTube today. We want to make sure that we give you, and gentlemen, the very best information regarding Logic. So if you're interested in learning about groove templates, learning how to edit regions within the region parameter, and if you want to learn every single thing that you can about this incredible program, I'm about to bring it. You ready? Here we go. All right, let's bring the music down. Let's get ready. We have so much great stuff prepared for you today. We're going to start off with groove templates, so we're going to jump right in. If you have questions, I'll be looking at the comments from time to time. And if you want to know more about what we do as a whole, as a company, then go ahead and check us out, hfmusicacademy.com. All right, so let's get into groove templates. As you can see, we can create these kind of quantization grids. They're called groove templates. If any of you have used Ableton, then you know that we're not talking about necessarily replicating eighth notes or quarter notes. We're talking about the feel. Okay, so let's say a drummer, Dave Matthews Band, Carter Buford, right? He has a very unique feel. If you listen to the drummer who played on all the James Brown records, he has a very unique feel. If you listen to a bass player like Victor Wooten, or phenomenal guitar player like Bella Fleck, my point is everybody has a very unique leaning, like their characteristic, who they are kind of comes through. And so when we're talking about certain genres of music, some of them push and some of them pull. And so when we start to replicate these groove templates, we're really talking about capturing the feel of the performance. And so we're going to go over that right now. So we can do this based on audio or MIDI regions, and I believe they can also be applied to audio and or MIDI. So we can use these templates to capture the subtle timing deviations that give a region its feel. We know that if we just quantize everything, that's a step in the right direction in terms of being a professional. But really, it's all the small things after that that start to add up. In other words, you can't quantize every single thing in every single session and expect that to be something great. After a while, you're going to have to use some of the tricks of the trade. We're talking swing, we're talking groove templates, push, pull. There's a lot of these little tricks that we're going to get into, okay? All right, so it says you can even take the feel of an audio region and apply it to a MIDI region. So this is going to help give let's say a clavinet, right? So it's a MIDI performance, but it's going to sit a little bit better in the mix because we've applied the right feel. So just a quick idea here, just some fodder to give you. You can literally go back in time, the Beatles, Stevie Wonder, Bob Marley, right? Pink Floyd, like all the greats, or even study some of the greats of today, Post Malone, whatever it is. You can borrow their groove and you can apply it to your music. So if you're like, man, that beat is so hard, what are they doing? You can replicate the sounds by means of your imagination, and then you can quite literally take the groove and replicate it now. Okay, so let's get into it. You can select multiple regions to create groove templates, and all of them will contribute their transients or their notes, because it's also MIDI, right, to the new groove template. When there are multiple transients or MIDI notes around the same musical position, however, only the first will be evaluated for the groove template. My favorite part of the entire Logic User Guide has been these tips here at the bottom. So let's read those and I'll take you into Logic. MIDI regions work particularly well for groove templates. Why? But you can use MIDI regions of any length. Make sure that the source MIDI actually contains a note at every desired quantization value. So, not sure if that means don't have notes muted, but let's get into it now. We'll look at some examples and we will go from there. All right, my good friends, this is brought to you by hfmusicacademy.com. So happy to be here again on this Wednesday. This is what it's all about. This is literally what it looks like day in and day out. We're just putting in the work, making sure that we yield results. All right, so working with groove templates, we are on page 371. We're going to do this with audio first, okay? And then we're going to do it with MIDI. So it says here, select an audio or MIDI region. And then it says if you select multiple regions, the transients or notes from all the selected regions are used for the groove template. I'm assuming this would be better if you just did it with a couple or just one sound source, just to not overcomplicate it. But it does say when there are multiple transients or MIDI notes around the same musical position, only the first will be evaluated. So just reiterated what it said in the beginning. So then after that, we're going to choose the quantization value. I want to be clear about something. If you don't do this, you're not going to see the parameter inside of the quantization menu. So you have to turn on quantization and then you can see the groove template. So we're going to make a groove template. All right, this is all the way at the bottom of the screen. I'm just telling you what we're going to do, and then I'm going to show you what to do. This is the best way to teach. You want to tell people what you're going to do, and then you want to go ahead and perform that. The groove template with the default name of the selected region appears near the bottom. Okay, so once we make the groove template, so let's say I take a James Brown song, like I said, and then I copy the groove template of the drums, and then I want to apply it to my new MIDI performance, I could then click on the MIDI performance, the MIDI software instrument track, and then go into the quantization menu. And because I created it inside of the quantization menu, it now exists as an option. So that's really incredible. You can see here in this picture here, if I come in a little tighter, it says slow groove. And I believe that it is titled based on the track name. So that's something that we'll clarify in a second here. This function transforms the exact timing of transient markers or notes in the selected audio or MIDI region into a groove template that can be accessed. It can be used like any value, quarter note, eighth note, 16th, right? Triplets. The source audio or MIDI region used for groove template must remain in your project if you want to use the groove template. If you delete the source region from the project, the groove template is removed. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. The groove template is not removed from the pop-up menu, but it can no longer be used. Oh, I guess I was right then. So let's highlight that. I think that's a good point. So if you do happen to take your groove tempo from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, from Flume, from whoever, Halsey, anybody, once you get that source sound, then it needs to stay within the session. Okay, so if you remove it, the source region, the groove template, you can see it. You'll be able to see it inside of the region parameter menu, but you will not be able to access it. All right, so we choose the groove template from the quantize pop-up menu, just to be clear. Okay, so let's do that first, and then we'll talk about how do we remove these? How do we share them? All right, here we go. So as of now, you should be looking at Logic Pro. And you guys know how much I love this program. I feel so honored to be able to spend time with it every single day. Even on my days off, I'm not going to lie, I spend some time just, looking around, observing some new behavior, going over the contextual menus. I'm all about it. I'm all in. I love this program. So far that I became Apple Certified T3, I've sold my curriculum to reputable establishments. I've been able to teach this in different companies in different environments, and we also teach it over at hfmusicacademy.com. So when we talk about audio and replicating the groove template, I first want to just talk about the beat, simply because it has kind of a unique push to it. So let's listen, and then we will go ahead and copy the groove template. We can also do something third party as well, but for right now, let's just keep it really simple. I'm going to hit S, we'll solo, and then we will play this back. Here we go. Okay, so sounds awesome, right? It has a nice feel to it. What I'm going to do, not that you have to do this, I just think it would be easier in terms of processing so it doesn't have to evaluate the entire region. I just chop this up. Okay, so this is now, should be a 4-bar loop. Sometimes we have these editing issues. It looks like it's happening again, but it's okay. So I'm going to click on that. All right, you'll notice that I don't see a quantization option here. So something that they did not mention was the fact that you have to turn on flex time, which you can find here. If you want to enable that window, you can turn it on up here. So this is show or hide flex, key command F for flex. Once you can see the option, then you can enable it. And what that does for us is it analyzes each and every transient within the audio region, in the case of MIDI events. And then when we look at the quantization menu, we can actually quantize to the specific musical time that we're looking for. So if we're looking for 16th notes, then we can quantize to that. 30 seconds, 64. By default, 16th notes are going to work most of the time. That's a generality for sure, but I do want you to have something to work with. So in the case of borrowing a groove template, I'm going to click on this region, and then I'm going to say, hey, can we make a groove template? But before I do that, I want to name this something. I'll call this hard groove, if we can. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so then the region is selected, it's in key focus. Quantization menu is available because flex is on and ready. We go into the quantization menu, we make a groove template. So seemingly nothing has happened, but now if I go into the bass, okay, here's the performance here. Okay, what will happen is when I quantize this, at the moment, I believe I quantized it inside of the piano roll. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure that's like clockwork for me. Now I'm going to go ahead and go into the quantization menu of MIDI, and guess what I'm going to choose? All hands beat. Oh, it looks like I have to name the region in order to get the appropriate name. We're going to do this more than once, so just stay tuned. All right, so I'm going to click here. I'm ready to go. And just by way of really showing you the real information, I never want you to take this at face value. I want you to do your research. Everybody you watch, right? I want you to do the research yourself. Don't just listen to them because they say it. Look at the information. Look at the screen, right? Test out their theories. Make sure that this is going to work and apply for you. So then now we're going to look at the actual MIDI events and see how and when they move according to the groove template. Now, I just want to make sure that there's no quantization. Yeah, so everything's on the grid here. Okay, so let me go ahead. All right, so this is a really nice view. We can see most of the MIDI. In fact, let me do that. That's good. Okay, and I'm selecting the track itself, so everything is in key focus, including all the regions. And then I'm going to go into quantize, and I'm going to choose the groove template that we copied. So then I'll click on that, and you'll notice that a couple of things happened. I'll hit Command Z, so that moved a little bit. Let's see if there's anything else. Let me hit Command Z. So it looks like just that one note moved at the moment. All right, this is pretty much the same bass line, so I'm pretty sure that's the only thing that shifted. So again, I will turn it off for a quick sec. So let's turn off quantize. So that, oh wait, actually there was a lot more that happened there initially. Okay, I see that. oh, I see what happened. I had it quantized to 16th notes, and now this is the way I actually performed it. Again, when I go back into all hands beat, you can see that a lot of adjustments were made there in order to make this work. So this is before. Let me just give you an example of what it sounds like before. Just a heads up, it's going to sound loose. It's going to sound just kind of ambiguous. Check it out. It's not in the pocket at all. Okay, you know what? Let me turn off this. We're going to do this next. So let's listen to that one more time. So it sounds like, if you've ever heard somebody, pick up the guitar or the bass or an instrument for the very first time, that's what it sounds like. It's hesitant, right? It's not sure-footed. It's just kind of performing the parts, but really not sure. Now let's listen to this. Let's listen to the subtleties that are procured when you use groove templates. Here we go. So cool, a little bit tighter. Now, there is one thing that didn't work. So obviously this is not going to assure that you get the best results every time, because it just depends on the groove and it just depends on the song. But I will say this, everything except this note right here did not work. So we can go ahead and edit this in about 10 different ways. I'm going to show you one right now. Probably the most pragmatic, in fact. I'm going to control click. And once I do, I get the contextual menu, a lot of different options. Which one to choose, which one to choose. What I'm going to say here is, hey, I would love to select not all the following MIDI events, but can I only select the same subposition, not the same pitch, because my performance can simply include the same pitch. And I need to change the order at which this hit the grid. So I need to change the position to be more specific. So if I now select all following the same sub position, meaning currently where it's located in the grid. Now, just a quick disclaimer, this may or may not work. Just want to throw that out there. But Shift P should take me home. Let's go. All right, it looks like boom, yes, and boom, yes. Okay, cool. So we got that where we needed to get. And now I don't need to look at the other ones, right? So I don't need that macro view. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just like zone in a little bit and zoom in. Now, because the MIDI event is selected, it becomes my point of reference when I zoom in. Did you guys see that? Did you notice that? Okay, so now I'm zooming in. Fantastic, I'm good. And so we know that this needs to move over. Now, there's a couple ways that we can do that. If you follow my teaching, if you follow my protocol, that's helped so many different Logic Pro power users, you know that all we need to do at this point is move it over so it lines up to the grid. Where? We're not exactly sure. It just depends on the song. So I'm using nudge, and this simply won't work because it's now off of the grid. So I'm going to teach you a little trick here. And if you start to implement this, this is a guarantee. It will absolutely change the way that you work in this program. It'll revolutionize and revitalize your workflow. If you felt stagnant in the past, if you have felt like, man, there's more that I could do with this, it's simply because you just don't have the tools yet. So keep doing what you're doing. Stay with me. We're going to give you the complete package by the time it's said and done. So now I'm going to click and hold. Now remember, based on my snap mode, which at the moment is bar, I might want to shift that over to a smaller value. So I'm going to change this by way of key command. Okay. I don't see it changing. This is why I haven't done anything yet. Okay. It's not responding. So we'll do that manually. Has this been changed? Oh, it looks like this got changed by mistake. All right, so I'll have to set this up a little bit later because I'm in the zone right now. So what I'll do is I'll click, okay, and then I'm going to then hold control. Now what this is going to do, it's going to take the value of division, which I'm currently set to. You saw me change it, okay, and it's going to adjust it so that I hit the grid now. Did you see that? So again, before I was trying to hit the grid. Oh man, I really can't get there. As soon as I hold control, It literally just brings me right in line, right where I need to be. Now let's bear in mind this is happening to every single one of these because that is the way that I've selected them. Remember, selecting all same sub position. So then now we're going to check if this plays back accurately. This may not be the right timing as well. All right, I'm going to hit my favorite key command of all time, which is stop or play from last position. Here we go. Success. We nailed it. And so that's the way I want you to approach this amazing program. That's called a Logic Pro workflow. There are many workflows. What I want to do is teach the best one for you. There are multiple ones out there, and with all the people that I work with, I find what their workflow is. And once they use it, once they duplicate, replicate, all of a sudden it just becomes second nature. Okay? So we just created a groove template with audio. I want to and we implemented with MIDI. I want to try that with MIDI as well and just kind of change up the overall workflow. But before I do, I got to change this key command because it's so inherent to my workflow. It says that it's right here. That's interesting. And here it says that it's wrong. So there's some kind of disconnect happening. Oh, there it is. Sweet. Awesome. Okay. So let's see here. We just, we need to translate that to audio now. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to delete this MIDI part. I bounced it to audio. Here it is right here. It should sound fairly sloppy. There's just kind of a lot going on. Take a listen. Okay, and by the way, it's not like I think this is the most applicable thing. It's just we need something to work with, right? So let's listen to this. Okay, well, first and foremost, we don't need all that bass, right? There really is no room for that. So we know when we're mixing bass that there's very little room. And so that's something that we can do right there. Check it out. Good. And for those of you that really need a solution for the low end, I believe the best solution in the game today, without question, is Leap Wing Audio Route 1. For mixing, for mastering, and just general bass management, this thing truly is number one in the game today. And I'll be making more videos and content for them soon. But what I want to do now is use the groove template, track number 1. We made that earlier. In fact, I want to do another one, but this time I'm going to change the name of the region. In fact, let's do the second one and let's call this Hard Groove. Okay, so TT brings me back. Command F turns off the flex window. I click on this region. It's now in key focus, this one right here, just to be clear. Okay. Then I go into the quantization menu. From here, we make a groove template. I'm just going to double check my work. Here it is right here. So then now we know, based on the information, based on the research, based on the mistakes that we've been able to work through, right? This is a trial and error process. This is how we get better. Please do not feel defeated. Do not get frustrated when you don't get what it is you're after. It takes some time. I'm not saying it has to take that long, but it does take some time. I believe that if you want to become a Logic Pro power user, you can do it in weeks. Now, of course, if you already have a background and a history, it could happen in a week, but you need the right tools and you need the right system. That's a fact. Okay, so I'm set up. I'm ready to go. I'm going to listen to this one more time just to hear how this is spread out in a kind of, just messy, scattered way. Take a listen. Okay, so then now, with the magic of groove templates, look how tight this is going to sound, guys. Now, you may look at this and think, well, how am I going to access groove? Where is it, right? Where is it? So again, You're going to have to turn on flex in order to access it. So this is a 2-3 step process. Then we go here, the bottom of the quantization menu, we hit hard groove. Boom. All of a sudden you saw some magic happen. Let's look at that again. Let's do it in slow motion this time. Here. Boom. Aha. Okay, let's do it here this time. Let me hit off. Watch it. Oh, you see those transients? You see those Christmas trees move around? All right, so here's hard groove one more time. Take a look. Don't blink. Boom. It's going to sound tight. It's going to sound really, really, really well put together. Now, check it. Come on, guys. This is incredible. I know you're loving the content. I want you to do me a big favor. I want you to do me a big favor. I want you to share this right now. Just take one quick minute. We'll play some music. I just want you to share it. I know this is the best content in the game. I'm absolutely certain of it. We're going over it with full detail. So just by way of reciprocity, go ahead and share this. So I'll take a minute. We'll wait. Share it with a friend. Who do I share it with? Go ahead and share it on social. Hey, just take a quick screenshot of me. Here, I'll take a pose. Ready? Boom. All right. And then just say, hey, this guy is the best in the game today. Eddie Gray, we love what he's doing. This guy's giving us the best content for free. Not asking for anything. He just wants us to share. That's all. Eddie Gray, brought to you by hfmusicacademy.com. So I'm going to wait for a share, and then we will continue. Guys, hey, I really appreciate you guys sharing. It really means the world. This, guys, it's just, that's what we do now, right? This is how we move things forward. So if you're interested in helping out the cause and what we're up to, thank you very much. Sincerely appreciate it. Okay, we got to get back though. We got to get back. So then, now we understand the usage of a groove template. How to utilize it, when to utilize it. Is it always going to work? No. But it's another way of expressing yourself and making your music the very best that it can be. So when we get back into the user guide, we start to look at other features, and that's what we're looking at right now. Okay. So it says here, hey, can we remove these? How do we remove them? Okay. It looks like there is actually an associated key command and also a menu item when you go inside of the menu. So we're going to select the source region, and it's going to delete that from the quantization templates. And of course, the region will not be removed. Let's read this second part. Without changing the actual quantization of that region, or of any other region that may use that groove template, the previously selected groove template is deleted. So it's interesting. If, just to be clear, if you delete it, it's not going to change the quantization, but it will delete the groove template, and the region is set to quantize to off. So it is going to change it. So that's okay. So basically, that's a really confusing way of saying it's gonna go back to 0. So let's test it, shall we? So we're here, and I do want to highlight by hitting the key command Z this specific track. We know that we use the hard groove template, and so what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to remove this from my list. Look at the transients. Let's see if it translates. Nope. Looks exactly the same. It says that the groove template is now at 0, or empty rather. If I hit Command Z, yeah, everything is exactly the same. So I think that what they meant to say was it's not going to change the quantization value, but you will not be able to access that feature once again. So we still have All Hands Beat, which is the original that we made, but this now has been rendered useless. So let's move into sharing a groove template. I don't know, maybe you're working on a funk project with your writer. You guys are a duo, or you have a band and your singer, she's asking for the groove template so she can add some stuff to the track. How do we do that? So you want to copy or create your source region in one project. So I suppose we have a file and it's called groove templates, right? Or groove template source regions. And then you want to name these regions with the text tool as I showed you. And then we want to go ahead and make the groove templates for each source, or use the corresponding key command if you find yourself using this a lot. Pack all of these regions into a folder and rename the folder grooves, for example, and then create as a template. So this is a really clever idea. It's something I personally have not done. And so then now, because I'm reading this, and because I always want to take my game to the next level, I stay hungry, I stay committed to the process. What we're going to do is we're going to maybe make a YouTube video when the time is right and do this live on the spot with the appropriate songs, of course. We want to make sure we don't get tagged. So then now we can access these, we can import them using Logic's amazing features. So it looks like they have third-party groove templates. Who knew? Check this out. DNA Groove Templates, made by the Canadian firm WC Music Research. I'm not going to go over it now, but this is certainly something, again, that I will highlight. And in fact, this one I'll take a screenshot so that if something is really relevant and can help you, I'll pull it up the next time we get this going. So if you want to import the groove template, I've showed you how to do this to some extent, but I'll kind of pretend that we have a groove template already set up for ourselves. And so just to be clear here, the groove templates are added as MIDI regions on the selected track. To add the groove template to the quantize pop-up menu, select a groove template and then choose Make Groove Template from the quantization pop-up menu. Oh. Okay, so this is really simple, to be honest. So pretend that we have a session somewhere, like when I go to my bookmarks, for example, here. You can see that I have a lot of stuff saved. MIDI transform. This is a file where I just literally created a bunch of MIDI transform sets. I know we haven't got there yet in the user guide, but we will soon. And so here are project templates that I use. So if this was my groove template, then all I would have to do is open it up, drag in the necessary regions that I wanted to pull in. If I hit the right arrow key, I can enable all this information. Then I would essentially add these into my session. And then once they're pulled up and rendered and everything's on the session, then you would go to quantize, make groove template, and then you can access them just like that. Let me just make sure I'm giving you the right information. Yeah. To add to the groove template, select the groove template, and then choose Make Groove Template. So these aren't like patches that you can just kind of load in a folder somewhere. It looks like they kind of have to be created. Final note here, the quantization templates are saved with the project. So this is very similar to MIDI transform in that they're project specific. So it says here that they can be used even when the project is played on a computer that doesn't have the corresponding DNA or any template. You don't have to use these third-party ones, by the way. I'm sure it's convenient, and if they're still available, I'm definitely going to purchase them. So that's a pretty cool feature. Go ahead and let me know if this applies to you, if you knew about it, if it's something new that you'll be implementing into your workflow. And then if you guys want to become communal in nature, share your groove templates. Just go ahead and just hit us up in the comments. Say, hey, here's a groove template if anybody's interested, or funk groove templates or rock groove templates, what have you. Jump into editing region parameters. Now I want to make sure I have enough time to do this and do it at the highest level. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick reading. And if I'm able to cover most of it, then we will continue on. Otherwise, we're just going to hold off for now. So let's go. All right, editing region parameters. So we're shifting now, right? We're moving into a new space. We're talking about the region parameters. And this is so important. This is so just colossal when you start to use it. I'm telling you right now, okay? You can view and edit region parameters in the region inspector. Located in the upper part of the inspector. When a single region is selected, the title bar of the region inspector shows the region name and when multiple regions are selected. The title bar shows the number of selected regions. So this is the title bar right here. I just want to be clear. All right, so if I have 5 regions that I've selected, I've lassoed, created a selection, it'll say 5 regions here. So it says here the region inspector shows parameters for the selected region or regions, including quantize and other parameters. Some parameters are shared while others are available for only audio or MIDI. So depending on what's selected and what's in key focus, you're going to see various contextual items change and or be replaced. These are additional advanced quantization parameters that you can view and edit by clicking the More disclosure triangle. That can be found right here. And this is the disclosure triangle. One click takes you there. Okay, so I do want to be 100% clear by taking you into Logic. Here we go. All right, so we are looking at the inspector here on the left-hand side. So everything here is called the inspector. So this is kind of like the umbrella in which the region inspector exists, the track inspector, which is different than the regions. We have the left channel strip, okay, and then the right channel strip. So all of this exists within the overall inspector. So then, if I click on this disclosure triangle, I can now see more items pertaining to the region that we're talking about. And then when I click on more, well, what do you know? We get more information. Now, a lot of this has, there are rules that you have to follow and look at and work with. So that's going to be something that we're going to cover now. Okay. All right. It says here that the default settings will show you a certain display. Okay. The region parameter settings displayed are applied to newly recorded regions as real-time playback settings. So of course, if I make a change here, for example, I change the gain, this will be reflected. If I click on this one, you're not going to see gain because this is a MIDI software instrument track, so it doesn't work that way. Although if I want to change the velocity, that value is often associated with volume in certain software instruments, AU components, and so it just depends, how you want to change the overall dynamics. We know that we can also use dynamics and various features in here. And we're just doing an overview right now. We're just kind of looking at it, talking shop. Sooner or later, we'll really get into the nitty gritty. But let's take a step by step. When we go into editing several regions, it looks like we can select multiple regions. I'm not sure if they're referring to audio and MIDI, but we're about to find out. If you alter any region parameters, all selected regions are affected. If a given parameter is set differently in the individual regions, an asterisk appears in the parameter field. So if you've ever seen anything like, let me see if I can select 2 MIDI sources. Okay, you see that asterisk right there? This means that they have 2 different values. And so I guess the program will do its best to create an offset value. Not sure. Let's find out. You can alter this parameter for all selected regions, and the value differential will be retained. So yeah, it looks like it will just basically create the best decision, which will be relative to the alteration being made. If you want to set all selected regions to the same value, all you got to do is press and hold Option Shift while changing. And this is great. This is something I didn't know. So look at this. What a cool concept. Relative alteration as opposed to absolute altercation. So this is next level. I got to highlight this too. Although I'm going to change color on that one. Money. All right. I hope it doesn't change it. Okay, cool. All right, so let's keep going here. Opening the region inspector, we know that we can create the region inspector float. We talked about it multiple times. The key command being, hold on, I have it preset, but Option R. Okay, so again, if I just hit, I have Option R set to a recording function, I believe. Or wait, is this the event float? Yeah, I have it set to something else. But yeah, if you want this to drag out, you can do it manually. You can also go to Window, Region Inspector Float. Again, I have mine set up to F5, and it just pops up. And I've talked about this before. Okay, let's see here. All the parameters that are in question. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to quickly cover them. Just want to make sure. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll cover the audio today, and then if I have time, I'll get into MIDI. I just don't want to rush. Like if we're going to do this, I want to take our, yeah, MIDI is a lot more extensive. So this is actually a great game plan. Again, this is not rehearsed. I just want everybody to be clear. We're just looking at this at great length, and we're making sure we examine every single part, right? And then we're looking at how it applies. That's probably the most important part about this series. For those of you that are following, and I applaud you, here you go. Woo, great job. Seriously, because I know that it can be an uphill climb. And so for those of you that make the mountaintop, this will be vastly rewarding. I mean, you will get so much from it. I believe that this can be the absolute biggest game changer that you take on. So I salute you. All right. So we're going to go into audio region parameters, and then we will call it a day. And of course, I will absolutely see you tomorrow, and we'll do this again. All right. So muting, we know we can mute a region inside of the region parameter menu, inside of the region inspector. We can loop. We can also use the corresponding key command L. And this is going to play all the way out. It's going to loop all the way out to the project end. So that is obviously specific to your project and how you have it set. If you don't know how to change the project end, I really want you to be aware, because this is something that I wish somebody had taken the time to show me here. You can see that it says 129, but unless you really know what you're looking at, you're not clear that this is the project end. How do I know? Control click the control bar. And if we look at the key signature and project end, I have it enabled. The only thing I don't have enabled inside of my custom LCD screen are the locators, because I simply don't, I feel like it's redundant. I don't need to see everything. I just want to look at what it is I'm currently using in my workflow, or that which I would like to implement on a regular basis. So then once I hit OK, I can see my project end is 129. Again, I'll highlight that there. And so then let me give you a macro view by clicking the background of the workspace, hitting Z, and you can see it's all the way out here, and it's unnecessary. There's no reason to have the project end way out there. In fact, you're going to cause issues when you start freezing and bouncing and doing things like that. So then what we're going to do is we're just going to double click right here. Okay. And then I'm going to hit 40. And once I do that, you'll see that the project end has been altered. Now there's an orphaned MIDI region over here. All right. And I'm going to delete that. We don't need it. Fantastic. So let's keep looking inside of the audio region parameters. So we've talked about quantization. We haven't gotten over the values, which we're going to do extensively pretty soon here. So stay tuned. Something that you really need to know, especially for those of you that play your actual stuff, you're not just dragging in loops all the time. I want to introduce you to something called Smart Quantize. Now, I'm not going to cover it here simply because I already have a video where I cover it extensively. Go ahead and sub Resources for the Modern Creative. The video is called To Quantize or Not Smart Quantize. That is the question. And so I go over all the specs and why you would want to use one versus the other. I'll never forget it. One of the biggest Logic workshops that I was ever a part of, I was there as an attendee as I was climbing, and I asked one of the the most renowned speakers. I mean, we're talking the guy's been 30 years in the game, and I've said this story here, but we have a lot more new people, so I just want to make sure you guys understand something. I asked him, hey, what's the difference? I was the first one to be selected. What is the difference between quantize and smart quantize? What does it do? And without hesitation, he was very humble, very cool. He said, I don't know. And so right there, that liberated me at that moment, because I was like, you don't have to know everything about this program. You just got to learn what you got to learn. And guys, with that, I've been able to do so much with my career. I'll talk more about it later because we're kind of in the thick of things, but please don't think you have to know everything. Don't get lost in the woods. Don't get lost in learning. What we teach over at hfmusicacademy.com is to stay in action, right? You want to get results. And how do you get results? By being in action. Learning is great. Learning is part of it. Let's call it 20%. But then we ultimately go back to the DAW. Now, just a quick disclaimer on that. If you are brand new to the game, of course you're spending more time learning. That's obvious, right? If you're brand new, you have no confidence in your abilities, you need the necessary knowledge to have the necessary experience. I just want to make sure I honor you and that I acknowledge you and where you currently are in your development. Okay, but for those of you that are already further along, it's time to get in action. Roger that? Okay, so now we're going Q swing. What does this mean? And what does Q stand for? I'm assuming quantization, right? Here we go. This percentage value alters the positions of every second point in the quantization grid. This is awesome. So values over 50% delays the beats, and values under pre-delays them, which basically means that they'll sound rushed. So that's something that I want to highlight. That's pretty cool. The most practical setting falls between 50 and 75%. So if you go over 75, this is probably going to sound really disjointed. And when you stay within those parameters, 50 and 75, imparting a swing feel to strictly quantized or tightly played audio or MIDI regions is going to sound really nice. It's going to have a head bobbing effect. Okay. And it looks like we're going to get into that extensively pretty soon here. Transposition, what does that mean? We want to raise up the key in semitones or octaves. You do it inside of this menu. Okay. I don't believe drums are affected, but I mean, after a while, I mean, they maybe if you just go by one semitone, you're not going to hear it. But if you go by an octave, I'm sure you will. So here are some drums for you really quick. Okay, well, if I go by one semitone, do you hear it? Not really. Wait a minute. Make sure this is enabled. You got to select that, turn on that, and let's see if this. See, I kind of heard it there. So here's 0. Here's 3 semitones. Take a listen. See how the snare is popping a little bit more? And then now we'll go up 1 octave, and you should hear it just fine here. And guys and girls, this is certainly a great sound. You throw on some kind of, high pass situation like this. Check it out. Or the other way. And then, of course, during the next section, you can just drop down to a value of 0. So you can kind of start off the song like this. And then good, you understand my point. All right, cool. So transposition, we can also fine tune. So now we're not talking semitones, but we're just talking relative to a semitone. So all the way up to a semitone. So this is called a pitch offset and changing that value in cents. We know we can change the numerical value by double clicking, right? And we can also click the arrows and then choose an offset in increments of plus or minus 10. So let's just check that really quick while we're here, right? Plus 10, 20, 30. As soon as you get to plus 50 or negative 50, it has achieved a kind of musical cycle and it's up an entire semitone or half note. Okay, So the most practical setting, oh, wait a minute, we've already passed that. Fine tune, flex and follow. Okay. So this is related to flex time, but let's see how it relates. Choosing whether the region follows the project tempo, whether this is flexed, and at what resolution. So again, it looks like we'll cover this a little bit more extensively, but you're going to want this to be on if you're dealing with flex time, okay? So for example, with this audio region, you can see it's not on, but also I haven't quantized it. This is a guitar, so this is something I would quantize. But something like this, which is a shaker, I want this to be in the pocket, okay? So then what I'll do is I will turn it on. Now we're not seeing it simply because we have to enable flex time. And then what ends up happening is we then see it right there. So it's on when I turn on flex time, but if I hit off, look at this, right? And things are off. So let's learn a little bit more about that relationship and how this feature is kind of helping us along when it comes to quantizing audio. Do we see it in MIDI? No, and there's a reason for that. But let's continue on here. Gain, we can literally adjust the source sound, how loud it is, how loud it's coming into the session, okay? We talked about the additional parameters inside of the More menu. It looks like we can alter the position of the audio regions. So they can be delayed by setting positive values. And then, of course, if we want a bit of a push and we want a negative value, we can set that as well. And why would you do this? It's all feel. It's all feel. That's all what it is. So just to wrap it up here, fade in, speed up. We talked about that. Curve, we talked about. We know that we can transpose inside of the tracks menu. We know we can reverse and then, of course, adjust the overall speed as well. So, for example, if we're here, we can reverse and perform more actions inside of this menu here. Now, it's interesting because if we look at certain items, we don't see the speed option, and then sometimes we do. So we're going to have to talk about that more at length the next time I see you guys. But for now, Q range, very musical quantization method that requires a certain amount of technical musical prowess. It's ideal for recordings that have the right groove, but are too hurried or laid back in places. It allows you to retain the original feel, but the rhythmic center is still kind of in the groove. So a value of 0 means that every note is quantized. If you have negative values, only the notes that fall outside the range are going to be quantized. So this has to do with the overall feel, so that quantization just feels a little bit better, and then you can adjust the strength of that. So I'm looking forward to covering all of this at length. We're going to wrap it up now. Thank you very much for your time. I truly value these moments that we get to work together and just develop, because that's what it's all about. So Eddie Gray signing off. Thank you very much. Go ahead and share this video, sub, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you guys. Have a great day.